Today we're going to discuss the political philosophy of Thomas Paine, found in his pamphlet, Common Sense, that served to fuel the American Revolution. Can this document from 1776 still hold relevance in the modern world? Let's get into it. Paine was a British-born writer and political activist who arrived in the American colonies in 1774, just as tensions between the colonies and Great Britain were reaching a boiling point. Less than 2 years later, in January 1776, he published his pamphlet, Common Sense, a powerful and persuasive argument for American independence that resonated with the colonists and helped galvanize support for the revolutionary cause. Paine and other pamphleteers of the era had a lot in common with modern-day political influencers, especially in drawing the ire of the political establishment by operating outside of established institutions and mainstream media and by offering alternative perspectives and challenging the status quo. As has happened with many modern-day political influencers, Paine eventually found himself canceled for his opinions. Maybe we will discuss this in a future video, but for now, let's look at the philosophical underpinnings found in Common Sense. Paine's political philosophy was deeply rooted in the Enlightenment ideals that were sweeping across Europe and America at the time. He drew heavily from the works of John Locke, the English philosopher, who had famously argued that governments derived their legitimacy from the consent of the governed and that individuals possessed certain inalienable natural rights. Paine took these ideas a step further, arguing that the British monarchy had violated the social contract by denying the colonists their natural rights. He condemned the system of hereditary rule as inherently unjust, corrupt, and incompatible with the principles of self-government. In Paine's view, the time had come for the colonies to break free from the shackles of tyranny and establish a new government based on the principles of republicanism and popular sovereignty. If some of this sounds like the Declaration of Independence to you, you're right. Some historians have speculated that Paine contributed to the document in some way. Paine, as inspired by Locke, contended that governments are formed through a social contract in which individuals agree to cede some of their natural rights to a governing body in exchange for protection and the maintenance of order. Paine further asserted that when a government fails to uphold its end of the social contract, the people have the right to dissolve it and establish a new one. This, of course, was included in the Declaration. The controversial part of his assertion is that he argues that if a government fails to protect its citizens, it loses its legitimacy and can be overthrown, violently if need be. Also, Paine advocated for a system of self-government in which the people would have a direct say in their own affairs, as opposed to proclamations from hereditary monarchs and nobility. He believed that republicanism, a form of government in which power is vested in elected representatives, was the best way to ensure that the government remained accountable to the people. In the same train of thought, Paine's pamphlet also launched into a scathing critique of the British monarchy, characterizing it as a system of arbitrary power and privilege. He argued that the idea of a hereditary monarch is absurd, and that no individual has a divine right to rule over others. His condemnation of the monarchy served to delegitimize British rule in the eyes of the colonists. Paine also made a powerful case for American independence, arguing that the colonies had outgrown their need for British rule and were fully capable of governing themselves. He envisioned a new nation founded on the principles of liberty, equality, and self-government that would serve as a beacon of hope for the world. Also, Paine placed great faith in the power of reason and human progress. He believed that through education and enlightenment, people could overcome ignorance and superstition and create a better society. So, how do Paine's ideas resonate into today's political scene, especially in America? Are they still relevant? Paine's anti-establishment sentiment and critique of entrenched power structures resonates with the anti-establishment sentiment prevalent in contemporary American politics. Many citizens on all corners of the political spectrum are distrustful of traditional political elites and institutions, seeking change and greater accountability. Paine's emphasis on the people's right to govern themselves and his rejection of unelected rulers align with the core principles of American democracy. These ideas are frequently invoked in debates about the role of government, especially the power of unelected bureaucrats, individual liberties, and the importance of citizen participation. Paine's advocacy for natural rights and individual liberties, coupled with his skepticism towards large, centralized governments, finds a strong foothold in conservative and libertarian circles. His views on self-governance and limited government intervention align with the principles of small government and personal responsibility often espoused by these groups. Likewise, Paine's concern for the common man and his call for a more equitable society continue to inspire progressive movements today. His ideas about the importance of social welfare programs and the need to address economic inequality resonate with those advocating for greater social justice and a fairer distribution of resources. Paine's use of clear and forceful language to communicate complex political ideas remains relevant today. His ability to connect with a broad audience serves as a model for those seeking to make politics more accessible and understandable to the general public. Have you read Common Sense? If not, I'll have a link to it in the description so that you can. If you have, what do you think of it and its relevance to current politics in the USA and beyond? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next videos on Thomas Paine's works, as well as other philosophical topics. And if you're a regular viewer, let me know if you prefer just me talking, as in this video, or if you like me interacting with my AI assistant, Matt, better.